Welcome to our proving grounds here in Western Washington State. Today we have a pair of very capable off-road compact crossovers. On this side, the 2026 Subaru Forester Wilderness. And over there, we have the 2025 Ford Bronco Sport Badlands edition. Which one of these is best for epic off-road adventures? Well, we're going to find out right now on Driving Sports TV. This episode of Driving Sports TV is brought to you by Onyx Off-Road. Click the link below to save 20% off your new membership using the code DSTV. Cars are expensive. That is probably why most people are looking for one vehicle that can do it all. Enter the compact crossover. These are truly jack-of-all-trades vehicles. They're easy and economical to drive, have enough room for airport luggage or camping gear, and because they're crossovers, it doesn't take much to make them trail ready. Two of the most popular vehicles in this segment are the Subaru Forester Wilderness and the Bronco Sport Badlands edition. And both of the vehicles, as you see them here, are just over $42,000. Which is best for your money? Well, let's dig into it. Based on the 6th generation Forester, this new 2026 Forester Wilderness measures 182.9 inches in length, with a wheelbase of 104.9 inches. Approach angle is 23.5 degrees, breakover is 21 degrees, and departure is 25.5 degrees, with a maximum ground clearance of 9.3 inches. Underneath, there is a small skid plate in the front. The 6th generation Forester is built at Subaru's factory in Indiana. Recently, they moved the Outback, which was built there, over to Japan because there is anticipated growth in this segment over the next decade. This Wilderness is powered by a naturally aspirated Boxer 4-cylinder engine, making a peak 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. The transmission is a chain-driven CVT. It powers all four wheels with Subaru's active symmetrical all-wheel drive system, enhanced with the dual-mode X-Mode off-road traction system. It comes standard with a set of Yokohama Geolandar all-terrain tires in a 235/60 R17 fitment. EPA rates economy at 24 miles to the gallon in town and 28 on the highway. Towing is limited to 3,500 pounds, but there is no tow hitch included at this price. That is an extra option. Price, as you see the Wilderness sitting here, $42,430 US, including options and destination. In the back, we get 69.1 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Now, features back here include little hangers. We get a 12-volt DC socket. Under the floor is a mismatched spare. The seats all fold flat, making this a decent place to sleep if you want to car camp on the trail. And then up here, we get a light on the rear gate. Okay, second row of the Forester. Get some nice mud mats back here. I get vents. I have both a USB-C and a USB-A. Plus, I get a fold-down armrest with integrated cup holders. As for comfort level, yeah, I got lots of leg room back here. Got lots of headroom. It's actually a nice place to hang out. A little light up there. Cool. Up front here, we have an interior that I actually rather like. I think the steering wheel with the contrast stitching, the little kind of anodized copper look pieces are very nice. StarTex is a nice synthetic leather. I feel like the seat fits great. Over here we do get, of course, their big touchscreen. It is a little pokey, and yes, they do integrate the climate controls into the interface, which I don't love. Also, X mode is activated in the touchscreen as well. I would much rather have a physical button for it. I do like what they've done with this center console. It's a little bit more useful now. We have a place for our phone up there. We do have the charging pad up here too, of course. And then we have a view button down there to be able to turn on our front and rear cameras. Overall, comfortable place to be, good visibility. I have this massive sunroof. Yeah, nothing to complain about at all. This is a 2025 Ford Bronco Sport Badlands edition. We bought this one as a long-term tester for the channel earlier this year. It came from the factory with a set of Continental cross-contact ATR tires in a 225/65 R17 fitment. However, we did change the tires out with a set of Falken Wildpeak AT4Ws in a slightly larger 235/65 R17 size, and we mounted them to the stock rims. The Badlands measures out a little smaller overall. It's 173.4 inches in length, but the wheelbase is a bit longer at 105.1 inches. Ground clearance with the stock tires is 8.1 inches, but because we're running a tire that is the same size as the more expensive Sasquatch package, we have 8.7 inches of ground clearance. Factory approach angle is a whopping 30 degrees, departure is 26.7 degrees, and breakover is 20.4 based on the standard tires. Underneath, you do get an extra large metal skid plate on the front, and there are also additional plates on the underside protecting its vitals. Just to clarify, both of these vehicles are unibody crossovers with independent suspension on all four corners. The Bronco Sport comes from Ford's factory in Mexico. The 2-liter engines are built in Dearborn, Michigan. Power in the Badlands is where this vehicle really wallops the Subaru. Under the hood is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making either 230 horsepower or 250 horsepower. According to Ford, ours is equipped with the California emissions control, so it is making the lower number. But either way, the Bronco Sport's going to be making 280 pound-feet of torque. That is 100 more than this Forester. This engine is connected to a standard 8-speed automatic. The all-wheel drive system here has several enhancements over the standard Bronco Sport, including a water-cooled power transfer unit and dual clutches in the rear drive unit to control power distribution. These are controlled with GOAT modes, which we will get into later. EPA rates economy at 21 miles to the gallon in town and 27 on the highway. It is a little bit worse than the Subaru, but it's in the ballpark. Towing on this Badlands is limited to 2,700 pounds. However, good news, starting in 2025, it comes standard with the tow hitch. That was previously an option that you had to pay extra for. Plus, it also does come with a 4-pin power connector, which is nice to see. In the back, the Bronco Sport doesn't have a power liftgate. In fact, it's not even an option. However, you do get the ability to pop just the window, which is actually really useful. Now, under the floor, you do get a full-size spare. However, the one that comes from the factory doesn't match the tires that were on the vehicle. That said, when we switched this out to Falcon AT4Ws, we did put a full-size one in the back here, and it actually fits no problem. Cargo capacity back here is 60.2 cubic feet, which is smaller than the Subaru, but this is a smaller vehicle, so that shouldn't be a big surprise. Other useful features back here are the 12-volt DC socket, a 400-watt AC socket, and then we also get positionable lighting on the back. Price of the Bronco Sport Badlands, as you see it here, not including the upgraded tires, you're looking at $42,685 US. So both these vehicles are within $200 of each other as you see them here. Or if you calculate in the price of the tires, you're looking at a delta of $1,200. In the second row of this Bronco Sport Badlands, it is a little bit more snug. However, I think they've also been a little bit more creative with what's back here. We get molly hooks behind the seat. We have a zipper pouch. We do get vents, which is nice. Back here, I also get an AC power socket, good for 400 watts plus USB-C. Oh, I even get a pocket on the side of the seat up here for my phone, which is cool. Fold down armrests, integrated cup holders. If I were sitting up front, I am 6'1", legs torso proportionate. This is where I would be seated, and as you can see, I am missing several inches of clearance here. So yes, the Subaru has much better second row. If I can get my feet out. Okay, up front, the seats here are very comfortable. I have driven long distances and I've had no problems with comfort. However, they are a little bit smaller. I feel like the Subaru seats cradle me better. But one thing that I love in this car is that I actually get 3 memory positions. So one is me, one's my wife, one's one of my kids. And it's just great to be able to just hit a button and have the seat go right into the position that you want. I really wish that Subaru would put that on the Forester Wilderness, but they don't. Here we also get a wrapped steering wheel with controls on it. Both vehicles have paddle shifters, although this has a real 8-speed automatic transmission. That one's faking the shifts with a CVT. And then down here we have, again, a very useful space with room for cup holders. There's even a Red Bull can size holder here. And then, of course, I get that better charging pad that will hold my phone actually in place. Get USB-C, USB-A, a 12-volt. I have physical buttons here for a few commonly used features like camera and AC. But all the AC controls are actually in the touchscreen up here. This touchscreen is so much faster than the Subaru, but it also lacks options. It really doesn't have a lot going for it. I can control like seat warmers here, climate control. I can connect to my phone for Apple CarPlay. I can also dive into features of the vehicle, but when it really comes down to anything else, yeah, it's just not here. There is XM satellite radio on both these vehicles as an available option. Okay, oh, and armrest, bin for stuff. When it comes to the digital gauge cluster, both these vehicles have them. I do think that Subaru uses theirs better because it has a lot more features, because it has integrated maps and it just gives you a lot of data. The Ford one here, I prefer its design. I think it's a very clean design and it gives me all of the primary information that I want. I kind of wish I could integrate maps on it. It doesn't do that. However, it will give turn-by-turn directions using Apple Maps, so that's actually kind of a nice feature. And both these vehicles, of course, have auto headlights and fog lights. I have a ton of headroom here, but I do get no sunroof. I did not option a sunroof on this vehicle. That would have added even more cost to what is already a fairly expensive compact vehicle. The Bronco Sport Badlands takes a totally different approach to interior packaging. Like the Subaru, it does have synthetic leather throughout, but the infotainment screen here is horizontal, not vertical. It's also a much better looking panel, with sharper graphics and a faster response. In terms of features though, it is pretty limited. Navigation is available, but we did not option it on this vehicle. So this basically functions as an interface for climate controls, vehicle settings, Apple CarPlay, and the surround view camera system. And the cameras here actually look pretty good. The Subaru only gets a front and rear camera, and they are much lower resolution than the Ford. Now let's take it for a drive. We're first going to see how it handles on the street, then we're bringing it back to our Peninsula Proving Grounds to put the off-road systems to the test. Okay, let's see what this can do. Punch it! Okay, it doesn't have a lot going for it in terms of power, but let's see what that number is. Let's do the 0 to 60 and see what this gives us. So I'm going to line up, I'm going to put it into S sharp, which will sharpen my throttle inputs. Although honestly, for a wide open throttle, it's not going to change anything. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, punch it. Yeah, I am wide open throttle here. And 60, 8.72 seconds. Not fast. But, you know, it's actually a little bit better than it feels. I think that's because you get, even though it's not very fast off the line, it kind of does pick up the pace a little bit later. And that is, of course, just using the optimal CVT transmission. I'm not doing paddle shifters for manual adjustments or anything like that. So yeah, 8.72 seconds, 0 to 60. I expect that the Bronco Sport will be significantly faster. Now, on the road here, one thing that I do like about the Forester here is actually the seats. StarTex is not only a very durable material, it's also super easy to keep clean. I've had StarTex in my personal Crosstrek Sport for the last several years. We bought that one in 2021, and it still looks like new today, which is, I think, pretty incredible. Yeah, they've made huge advances in these materials. Also, these seats, they have really nice bolstering on the side and they're very comfortable. I have driven this exact car many miles. I drove it about 150 miles from the press launch, and then I drove it about another 160 miles home. So I have put miles on this vehicle, and the seats very comfortable. No pinch points, no hot spots. Everything is going good. But speaking of hot spots, we do get seat warmers in this trim, but oddly enough, no steering wheel warmer, which I believe the Canadian version does get a steering wheel warmer, and now in 2025 the Crosstrek Wilderness gets a steering wheel warmer, but this new Forester does not. I find that a bit odd. The Bronco Sport does, of course, also have seat warmers, and it actually gets a steering wheel warmer too, so I guess that's a +1 over there for Ford. One thing I like better on this vehicle is actually the digital gauge cluster. I'm not in love with the design. These little angular side panels, I don't think they look great, but the functionality is quite good. I can look at individual tire pressures. I can switch my entire view to be map view, and it'll give turn-by-turn directions. And that's compatible both with Apple Maps and with Waze. No other systems will currently integrate into the dash. I use Apple Maps, so for me, it's great. And I keep it up on map view all the time, and then I don't have to have a map over here. I can do whatever I want with this. This infotainment system, though, it isn't, well, let's just be completely honest, it's not very good. In 2025 here, a lot of the other manufacturers have had massive improvement. I like the idea of this display, but I think the execution, again, the graphics aren't great. Also, it can be really slow at times. I've gotten into the vehicle trying to hit some stuff and it's still busy booting in the background and it's just non-responsive. So this, I think, is one of the biggest Achilles heels of this vehicle, especially people who would rather have physical switchgear for aircon, and I am one of those. I think that, this is not going to be liked. Now, Bronco Sport also integrates all of the aircon into the main panel, but Ford gets a point because the Ford panel is sharper and it's more responsive. It doesn't do as much. Like, I don't get these angle and traction screens and stuff, but those screens are actually over in the gauge cluster. They are not in the gauge cluster in this vehicle. So all the information is basically there, but they just choose to put it in different places. And maybe that is actually the big thing between these two vehicles, is the fact that they are very, very different approaches to a very similar problem. The problem being, you want one vehicle that is good for commuting, it's good for daily driving, it's good for a small family potentially, and you want to take it down trails, off-road, or at least look like you do. And that is going to be like where these two vehicles really kind of diverge in the woods. One, the Bronco Sport, has just a long list of off-road features. This one, it has X mode, it has extra ground clearance, it has all-terrain tires, but it doesn't have much else. Is that enough to make the Forester the better choice? We're going to find out a little bit. The Forester here does do better in the IIHS tests. Specifically, they have made the side impacts more difficult, and some of their tests have been made more difficult going into 2025. And the Bronco Sport has not been updated in a significant structural way. So it's actually not rating as high as this vehicle does. And if you are looking for a vehicle for your family and you want the top ratings for safety, well, you can just stop this video right now because this is the one that has the higher safety ratings. That said, I think it was in 2022, the Bronco Sport was rated pretty well in the ratings. It's just that they haven't really updated anything, but those tests have become more difficult. We are on the road here. Let's talk about street manners of this vehicle. Subaru put a huge amount of attention into improving the NVH of this vehicle, that's noise, vibration, and harshness, so that it is quieter on the road. And yeah, they succeeded. This is a quieter vehicle. Even with all-terrain tires, you really don't hear those all-terrain tires too much. It's just a little, slight rumble in the background that's kind of mixed with a little wind noise. It's not vault quiet though. So as much as they are touting the fact that it is quieter, this still is not luxury class quiet. I do like, though, driving this vehicle, it always feels very comfortable to get into a Forester, and this one is no different. Visibility is like second to none. Okay, let's go into Sport Sharp and see how fun this is to drive with the paddles. Punch it. I like the confidence of full-time all-wheel drive, and Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive is really just a fun car to fling around. But we are down on power with this vehicle. It doesn't have a lot of kick on the initial throttle in, even if you're in Sport Sharp. It's just not an exciting vehicle to drive. I guess that's why Subaru also makes the WRX. Now, would it kill them to make a turbocharged Forester? Come on, guys. Can you please? here, let's reset economy and see what we get on this last few miles of the stretch. Accelerate up. I mean, this is a very comfortable vehicle to drive, and if you do have a family, this one definitely has more space on the inside, not just in the second row, but also behind the second row. If you're looking for something that's just has a more useful interior, I think that is this Subaru Forester Wilderness. But I think there's some things that we'll like about that Bronco Sport too. We'll drive that in just a little bit. You know, the suspension's actually pretty good on this. Yes, it is a little bit on the soft side, but it feels good. You know, I feel like I know what the vehicle is doing. Turn in is great. I mean, it's just a comfortable car to drive. It's very predictable and it feels nice. Okay, now that we've got road markings, let's go ahead and turn on adaptive cruise. Let's see, button up there, hit set. Now we are tracking at the target speed. If a vehicle were in front of us, it would gap us with that vehicle. Now we do have lane detect on, so it's detecting the lanes and it's basically keeping us centered. Now this is not a hands-free system, obviously. I'm just doing this for demonstration, but you can see that it's keeping us tracking true right down the middle, no problem. There are some improvements to eyesight for 2026, but there are little things like, you know, improving pedestrian detection, stuff like that. It's stuff that's important, but it's not anything where you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this one over that one. But, you know, they have made some tweaks here and there to make the system better for the new year. And of course, this does come fully loaded in the Wilderness trim with blind spot warnings, rear cross traffic alerts, and of course the collision detection up front with the adaptive cruise control. So overall, it's a nice setup. So I've only driven a few miles here, but I am averaging about 24 miles to the gallon. In my previous test when I was driving this on the freeway, Highway 84 down in Portland, we were averaging around 26 miles to the gallon. So, you know, it's going to be in that 24, 26 range, which is actually pretty good for an all-wheel drive vehicle with all-terrain tires. Now, quick note about the tires in this vehicle, they aren't the same Geolanders as the previous generation. The previous generation was actually 3-peak rated for snow. This one, they've lost that designation. Now, typically, they lose the designation when they reduce the tread size. Lower tread often means better MPG. So Subaru might be doing that little trick to improve the MPGs on this vehicle. Either way, I would rather have 3-peak rated all-terrains. If I'm going to be rolling with all-terrains, I want them to help me not just in dirt, but also in snow. Granted, 3-peak ratings aren't the end-all be-all, but they do, you know, allude to some enhancements for those type of conditions. And living in the Pacific Northwest, we get spotty snow and ice here. It would be nice to have that. Okay, so we've driven this on the street, extremely comfortable. Like if you dailied this, no complaints. I have all the tech that I want. Don't love the interface, don't love the screen, but it does provide me the functionality that I want in the vehicle. And of course, the digital gauge cluster is actually a really nice upgrade on this. I would probably go with the premium sound package that includes that digital gauge cluster just for the digital gauge cluster. In a little bit, we will be taking this through our off-road courses, but first we have to go drive the Bronco Sport on the street to see how it compares against this Forester Wilderness. Now we're going to switch this out with the Bronco Sport, but before we do, let's have a little fun. I'm going to go ahead into the screen here, turn off VDC, Vehicle Dynamics, that's traction control. I'm going to go into S Sharp, and let's just see what this can do. Punch it! I mean, continuing a trend, right? A theme. A little bit. You can have a little fun in the corners. Okay, well now let's see how the Bronco Sport does on the street, and then we're going to compare both of these on our off-road courses. Okay, let's see what this can do. Oh, yes. So much more power right out of the gate. But let's see how fast it really is with a proper 0 to 60 test. For this test, I'm going to switch the GOAT mode into Sport, which will give us optimal powertrain settings. And I'm doing this test in the exact same place that I just did the Forester 0 to 60. Okay, come to a complete stop. I'm not going to do any torque loading or anything. I'm just going to press it. 1, 2, 3, go. A little slow, and then boom, turbo kicks in. And 60 in 6.63 seconds. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So let's kick off this review by addressing the elephant in the room. The fact that we bought this Bronco Sport Badlands for the channel. So we spent actual money for this vehicle. Now, some viewers will say that obviously means we are biased, wanting this vehicle to win the shootout. Yeah, about that. I personally also own a 2021 Subaru Crosstrek Sport, which has the exact same motor as in that Forester. Same all-wheel drive system, it's just the previous version of them. And yeah, so I don't think that argument really holds water because, yeah, I own both of these. And if I did want to say, okay, well, maybe bias is present, it's like, which of your kids do you want to win? They're both good kids. And I think that's true in this case, bias or not. Both of these vehicles are very good vehicles in different ways, but both of them will probably make their buyers happy. You know, somebody who wants the extra off-road features of this vehicle and wants the higher output of this 2-liter engine, this will be great. And if they want something that rates better in crash tests, therefore safer, well, the Subaru Forester is a good choice. And then, of course, there's the question of size. This one is a little bit smaller than the Forester, although this one actually has a longer wheelbase. Just like pretty much any car, there is a little give and take depending on which vehicle you go with. So now let's talk about how this vehicle drives here. Currently in sport mode, stab the throttle, and oh yeah, there is thrust. The 2-liter turbocharged motor does a really good job of pushing power through the central power transfer unit, which is a multi-plate clutch, and then back to that rear drive unit, which has a clutch on each axle to control power. It really is a nice setup. We do have a lot of different GOAT modes here for the street, and the GOAT modes goes over any terrain. They're basically all the drive modes, both on-road and off-road, are buried in the GOAT modes. So you get a lot of choices here. For the street, there's normal, slippery, eco, and sport. And then there's also 3 off-road settings, which we'll get into in just a little bit. Well, for right now, let's go ahead and keep it in sport because it's the most fun, and we got some corners coming up here. When I'm in sport mode here, it even gives me extra information like oil temperature, turbo output, volts, and of course, how many gallons I have in the tank. But it basically changes the layout depending on what you're doing, and I think that's really cool. Also, it's a very high resolution display with a nice design. Now, unfortunately, there's no maps integrated into this display. It's very, very basic, but I like the way it looks. It's a very pleasing look. So why did we put the aftermarket tires on this? Well, the tires that we put on this are the tires that were on the Bronco Sport the very first time I reviewed it, and I just loved that setup. Now, granted, those were the older AT3Ws from Falken, but these are the AT4Ws, which is a natural progression. Same essential tire in terms of target, it's just been improved in some areas. And here, it's a great combination. It's very quiet in the cab. We do have sound suppressing glass, which is nice. And overall, it's a very comfortable place to be. Now, I have complained in the past about some rattles on the inside of the vehicle. They seem to have gone away. There was one in the back corner there. I'm also noticing that I'm getting an unusual number of chips in this paint. Not typically a problem in all my other vehicles. So the paint here might be a little thin and a little flaky. Not ideal. So at this point, just like with the Forester, I'm going to reset my MPG gauge. Okay, there we go. And we're just going to go for a little drive. I'm going to drive nice now. Actually, let's take it now from GOAT mode Sport, and we'll go GOAT mode Eco. And of course, that's going to, muddy the throttle a little bit. It's going to make it so that it's not quite so intense, but it should smooth things out, which of course improves MPGs. And overall, I do like driving this. So I bought this for the show, specifically for this comparison, because I knew that Ford was not going to set up a Bronco Sport Badlands to the fleet. I thought maybe they would send the more expensive Bronco Sport Badlands Sasquatch, but they didn't. And they didn't send either of them, actually. So I'm glad I bought this so that I can do this shootout today. Now, after this review, am I going to keep this vehicle? Well, see, here's the problem. I actually really like this vehicle. Like, moving over to the Forester has a lot of pluses. It has more space, specifically in the second row, which is really nice for the kids. It just feels like it's a tighter, well-built vehicle, but it is so slow. And for me, that actually is a bit of an issue. Also, I do like all the off-road toys in this Bronco Sport. And when we go to the off-road trail, I will show you all of them. And there are a lot. Okay, here we are on the street and we have lanes painted. So let's go ahead and set the adaptive cruise. This does have adaptive cruise with lane centering. It is a solid system. Prior to 2025, this was an option on the Bronco Sports, but now it's standard across the board. As you can see, I take my hands off the wheel. Actually, I'm set below the speed limit here. Let's go ahead and kick it up. It'll track us down the middle and gap us with the vehicle in front of us. It's just as good as the Subaru system. No complaints here. Plus, we of course have collision mitigation, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alerts. And this one also has a surround view camera system, which the Forester does not have. So this isn't obviously a very thorough test for MPGs, but yeah, on that little stretch, identical stretch that I just did with the Subaru Forester, the Bronco Sport kills it. We're at 30 miles to the gallon. I kid you not. Now granted, the moment I start dipping into the throttle here, I mean, that was in eco mode. If I start like punching it with sport mode, let's just kick it up a little bit here. Yeah, all of a sudden now, boom, 26. So you can, it is possible to be more economical than the Forester in this vehicle, but if you're buying the 2-liter turbo, you probably won't be. How about that? Okay, so on the road, this vehicle is more fun to drive strictly because it has more power. Though I do think the Subaru is a little bit more comfortable. Now when it comes to the tech, I do prefer the design and the screens in this vehicle, even though they do offer less. The design is pretty straightforward and everything is right here. I don't have to look down below. Of course, this also has the cardinal sin of integrating all the climate controls into the infotainment system. I do like that they're permanently affixed to the bottom, so you always see those, and they don't take up a lot of room, and they work reasonably well. Also, I like that this has a heated steering wheel, which you do not get in the Forester. And of course, you also get 3 stages of heat here. Again, very nice. The Subaru doesn't have a very long list of off-road attributes. I mean, it has all-terrain tires, excellent ground clearance, improved approach angle, and X mode, dual X mode. This has a lot more features. In addition to improved approach angle, we have much more body armor here. I do want to point out too that the fuel tank has a steel plate over it on this vehicle. Now, I'm not going to be doing like belly rubs with this thing over rocks. Wouldn't trust it for that, but for the occasional, hit, this thing's pretty well built up underneath. The Subaru is a lot more exposed, although you can, of course, buy lots of aftermarket underbody armor for the Subaru if that is a concern. So now we're going to jump out of this Bronco Sport and get into the Subaru Forester to put the off-road features to the test. Like we did with the Forester, let's kick this off with a little fun. Now with the Forester, all we could do is turn off the traction control system, kind of. This one I can actually switch all the way over to a rally mode. That's right, they have a rally mode now for 2025. Let's see what it does. It says it's for fun and spirited driving on loose surfaces. Let's punch it. Boom. Woo-hoo-hoo! Good lordy. Okay. This is legit. Nice. Okay, so we're now going to switch out to the Forester and start the off-road testing. But man, that was fun. I have to admit, I really like the turbo motor in that Bronco Sport. 2-liter turbo, 250 or 230 horsepower, depending on what part of the country you buy it. Anyway, it's quick. Now, a quick note about that horsepower difference, depending if you have a California emissions vehicle or not. Here in Washington State, we follow California guidelines, so we basically are a California emissions state. What they've done is they've added a particulate filter, and that cut back horsepower, but it did not affect torque. So it's still a very torquey little motor, which is really kind of where all the fun comes in that Bronco Sport. Okay, well now we're going to see how this does on our off-road course. Now what we're going to be doing here, I think we're going to do the whole ridge trail, and then we're going to hit the logging road to see if it can do more complicated things, because this is a wilderness. You never know what you're going to encounter when you are out in the wilderness, in a wilderness. I do like the suspension on this vehicle, and just the vehicle in general is really fun to drive on gravel. You know, one thing that Subaru has going for it is that all of its vehicles are boxer motors. They're hung low in the chassis, so you get a really low center of gravity. Just makes control fantastic on slippery surfaces. That is something that most other manufacturers cannot compete with, because most manufacturers outside of Porsche don't use boxer motors. This test is going to take us along what we call the Ridgeline Trail. It's a ridgeline that goes along the west side of the property. And right here, we're going to start with a climb. Now, typically this is very loose, but it has been raining. So the soil is going to be more compact, but it could also get muddy if we churn it up. So let's see how this does. Now, in terms of off-road systems here, we have X mode. I'm going to go ahead and do snow and dirt, which is the basic, because I think most people would look at this and go, oh, that's dirt. And once I engage X mode, what it's going to do is turn on that front camera, which is pretty low resolution, but it's better than nothing. And it'll also engage the brake vectoring system. That means it will apply brakes to wheels that are spinning and thereby losing all the power out of the system. Adding those brakes will shock the power back into the system, presumably to the wheels with grip. Snow dirt allows for minimal slip. Deep snow mud allows for more wheel spin. Okay, well, we're just digging here, so let's not. Usually we use a little momentum going up here because it is a hill. Let's try that. Go up there, just keep a little throttle on. This is usually where we get hung up. I'm just adding more power, and boom, it shifts power around the system, gets us to the top. Now, I did have some beeping there because of the collision mitigation system. Sometimes that will cut power. It didn't in that case, but we got to watch out for that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off driving assistance. That will reset to on again when I turn the vehicle back on. Turn off lane keep. Basically, just turn off all of the features. Okay, there we go. And we're going to keep it in X mode, snow and dirt. So far, the Geolander tires have done just fine. Dirt conditions like this are kind of their optimal sweet spot. Oh, that little clicking, I'm not sure if you heard that, but that's actually hill descent control kicked in. It's automatically engaged when we go into X mode. A little ditch here, but we're not going to have any problems scraping because we have very good breakover on this thing. I mean, for the class. Actually, get that front camera back on. It shut off on me. Guess it shuts off pretty easily, but we do have a button down here to turn it back on, so no big deal. This is where a small vehicle is really nice. No extra adjustment necessary. I just steer around and we're good. Now, the ditch right here very often will have a breakover issue. Let's see how this one is. The Honda Passport Trail Sport, which is granted a bigger vehicle, it completely bottomed out here. Let's see how this one does. And up. No bottoming out at all. Awesome. Crank over all the way to the right, try to lift that wheel as high as we can to really test X mode here. Just adding on a little throttle. It sorts it out and gets us moving through. And no bumping, that's nice. Add a little more throttle and just let it work it out. Adds brakes, moves us forward. Nicely done. Okay, now we got sand slide. I expect X mode's gonna chew this up quite a lot. Call it that because this is basically a very sandy hill with a little clay mixed in, but it's also gonna lift up that passenger rear tire quite a lot. And also check the grip of the front. I'm just adding throttle as we work our way up. I mean, we are getting there. It does do a lot of digging in the process though. Okay, ooh. Now we're gonna lift the back driver's side wheel and see if we rub in the front. No rubbing. Okay, well that's good. Keeping on. Oh man, you can just see how much digging we did here. Trail damage from the Forester. That's a mark right through there. That's so much dirt. Okay, our next little challenge is a ditch right here, which is going to, basically we're going to put our nose into some soft gravel. Really lifts up that rear tire. Can we move? Can we move? I'm just adding a little throttle. Now I don't want to add too much throttle because the last thing we want to do is lurch forward. That's how you end up damaging things. But here, it's doing a really good job of adding that X mode power and getting us through it. Nice. Now, if I had to rely on this camera to navigate a very narrow ridge, I think I would rather just look out the window. Okay, we are not done yet though. We are gonna head over to our logging trail, which is a more complicated trail, to see how well this system does. Because obviously that was no big deal. We didn't even go into deep snow mud yet. I've taken a lot of vehicles through here. However, they've all been body on frame SUVs or trucks so far. And yes, they have had a lot of sliding and a lot of bumping. So I have no idea how this is gonna do. But I'm guessing we're gonna have a little sliding, a little bumping. Let's do it. Oh, so right here you can see hill descent control. It's not a difficult hill, obviously, but I take my foot off the brake and it will roll us down at the speed that we are doing. It's a very straightforward system, works pretty well. I rarely use it, but you know, if you're on super steep descent, it kind of does give you a little peace of mind. Okay, and of course you can put the brakes on hard anytime you feel like you're out of control. Okay, so this basically starts with a drop. I'm also going to use the camera to try to get as close as I can to the outer edge to kind of elevate the vehicle a little. And we have a pretty short wheelbase, so that should work to our advantage here. Hopefully we're not scooping up too much dirt in the front right now. Oh yeah, get that angle. Angles do miracles. By rubbing that back a little, yeah, not too bad though. Oh, a little rub on the brake over, but again, not too bad. Now we're really lifting that back tire up. Oh yeah. Let's get out and check to see how much rubbing we've had. Yes, I know I have a tire up right now. And would you look at that? No articulation. So far, rub the back a little bit, not too bad. One thing nice about this surface is that it's actually like pretty, even though it's muddy right now, there's not a lot of big rocks. So it's mostly like soft dirt and clay. So it doesn't cause a lot of permanent damage. How are we doing in the front? Again, front corners. That's pretty typical. Let's move on. Okay, seatbelt back on. Oh, it's letting me. Sometimes it doesn't. Okay, let's kind of go up the edge here on the left. Hopefully we're not going to stick our nose in too much. Now this breakover, this is going to be tricky. How am I going to navigate this? This might be an issue. Everything drags here. Come on, come on, you got this, you got this. Oof. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It not only drags, it also lands right on the side panel. I think we are in the dirt. So I am not going to continue this way because there's no way we're going to make that breakover without just we just started there. We have a lot deeper to go. So I'm not going to push it that way. Instead, I'm going to try to exit out over here to the left. I've never actually done this. I don't know if this is going to work. Auto braking has kicked back on. Auto braking's not on. Why'd that kick in? That's weird. Okay, so can I get out of here now? This big ditch. Without too much dragging, without too much banging. Oh, rear auto braking is on. Okay, now I've turned it off. Let's climb. There we go. Now let's try to go left. If we can, we got a little bit of a seesaw here. Oh, up and over gets us through. Okay, so we weren't able to get through all the way on that particular challenge, but I'm still pretty happy with how far we did get. I honestly didn't think we were going to get through that first ditch. Right, now the climb out. Yee. Carrying on, this is where the rubber is going to meet the road. These ditches are very steep, and the climb is the steepest one we have. So, yeah. Also, there's a lot of clay in this particular material, so it is going to be very slippery, and the tires are probably going to load up very fast. So, camera on. The little ditch on the left here. Listen for rubbing. Get through. Come on, there you go. Now on this next one, I am actually going to use deep snow and mud, which not only does it allow for more wheel spin when the brakes kick on, that it kind of shocks more power into the system, potentially. So this might actually be a little bit helpful, hopefully. And now I am very concerned about stuffing my nose here, because let's not break off an entire bumper. So at this point, I'm going to add a little throttle. Ooh, we're going to tip a lot, apparently. And I actually want to check my nose here before I just add throttle. Let's see, make sure that we're not going to be bumping our nose in. Whoop, that's a ditch. Oof. Let's see here. Yeah, I think actually if I come over here, it's going to work a little bit better than if I'm over there. Yeah, let's do that and see. But I don't want to go too far because I'm going to slide down the side. So actually, if I just stay there and keep it straight, I think we'll probably be okay. I'm a little concerned about that bump there, though. Okay, back in the saddle, literally. Yeah, I think I am going to go just a little bit to the right because I'm a little concerned about that hump in the dead center. Just want to move slow here. It's where a proper crawl would actually be really... Oh, we're going to start sliding into that. Okay, that's not good. How we doing? The last thing you ever want to do is drop, because once you drop, you have no idea. It's like, Jesus, take the wheel. I have no idea what's going to happen now. Okay, let's check that nose again. Oh, I think we're going to clear. We're going to clear. Yes. Okay, it looks like we're going to clear so long as we don't slide sideways. The lugs are loaded up with mud, so that's an issue. But I think we'll be okay. Oh, big climb out. Made it. Ha! Now the final test, brake over. Listen for grinding. Oop. We're not all the way over yet. We're already grinding, so I'm going to try to back up. Okay. So, this is a very narrow trail. Normally, I would approach from an angle if the breakover is not working. So let's see what I can do here. See if I can go, come on, front camera. There we go. See how far I can go to the right, and then break it to the left. Going into some ferns on the right, but that's no big deal. Okay, I think we're gonna do it. That was enough. Yes. Oh, also, hill descent control is on, and we are currently at a, let's plop on over to that menu, car info. This is a 22-degree descent. Just lift off the brake, and it'll ease us down. Okay. You know, it did everything we asked of it today. Well, mostly, I guess there was that one section that we had to skip, but overall, pretty good. Now let's see how the Bronco Sport compares. That's a belly rub of the Forester. Trail damage. More belly rub.
This is underneath after off-roading.
Okay, well, now it's time to take the Bronco Sport off-road and see how it compares to that Forester. That Forester actually did really well. Now, one can complain all they want about features that we would like to have. But the fact is, that got through a fairly complicated course with very few issues. Now, we did have to kind of, sacrifice one section, but you know what? That's okay. There was a bypass. We got through it, and stuff like that is just stuff that you're really not going to run into on normal trails, and you're really not going to find trails like that unless you seek them out. And if you do want to seek them out, you can use Onyx Offroad, which happens to be the sponsor of this video. We love Onyx Offroad for planning our off-road adventures. Which trails to drive? How hard are they? Are they even open? Onyx Offroad provides all that information in addition to tools to help plan and organize your next adventure. Have you watched one of our mini road trip videos? We use Onyx Offroad to plan and navigate every adventure. And right now you can get 20% off your premium or elite membership to Onyx Offroad with the code DSTV. That's of course an abbreviation for Driving Sports TV. Look for the link in the video description below or click this QR code. Okay, let's see how this does. Rally mode! Woohoo! Boom! Love it. I guess I do have the advantage here of owning this vehicle, and the only person I need to talk to if I break something is this guy. Okay, and then I'd also have to talk to my wife, and let's not do that. Okay, so at this point, I am going to set the vehicle up for off-road. I'm going to go ahead and pick, and we got lots of different choices here. We have rock crawl, we have rally, and we have off-road. Obviously, rally is for brisk fun, so I'm just going to go ahead to off-road mode. And what that's going to do is automatically lock the power transfer unit in the middle. And for this climb, I'm also going to engage that rear locker, which basically locks the two drive shafts in the back using clutches on each side. It basically gives you the effective function of a locker. And then my front camera is on. I have wheel tracks, which is really nice. Should make this, let's turn off those parking sensors. Should make this climb relatively easy, although everything struggles a little bit on it. Oh, and I'm also going to change my gauge cluster over here to show off-road information so I can see my angles. Currently at a 15-degree climb. Okay, and let's just march on up if we can. Watch those wheels. Now this does of course have brake vectoring, just like the Subaru does, but this one has that added locker in the back. We're at 20-degree maximum climb here. And we just go up and over. We're gonna rub a little bit maybe. Yeah, just a little rub, but it's not too bad. Up and over. There we go. I'm gonna continue on the ridge here. I do like this camera a lot. It actually does really good. It's not the highest of resolution, but it is a good size, and it is definitely better than what's on the Subaru. A little bit of a ditch there. And out we go. And again, this is a small vehicle like the Subaru, so getting around corners, not hard. Okay, so we're going to continue on. Around the corner, again, we're going to listen for brake over grinding here as we go over these ditches. Over. I don't know what the crawl ratio is on the Subaru, but I know this one's 118. A little rub, yeah, but not much. Steer into the ditch, get maximum tilt. Yeah, now our nose is rubbing here, which is kind of a weird problem. For a vehicle with this kind of ground clearance, I honestly wouldn't expect it to rub there. So I'm gonna have to do a slightly different line because that is a big grind. So let's go a little bit more to the right. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so we don't get as much of a tilt because you can't handle it. Clearances. I don't know what it is with clearances on this vehicle. They're just kind of weird. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the rock crawl mode, and I'm going to go ahead and hit trail control. If I hit it once, it gives me one pedal drive. If I then hit set, then it will become like an off-road crawl control. But actually what I want to do here is I'm going to add speed. As the engine revs up, gets into those higher revs, it's doing brake. It's like two pedal driving, but on a crossover like this, which basically gives you insanely slow crawl speeds because it's using the brake as all I'm doing is throttle. My foot's just barely on the throttle here, and you can see how this thing is crawling up and over. And we got that rear locked, we have the central locked, everything is all locked up. And that it's mind-blowing how good this system is on this little crossover. Now, if they could just fix the clearance issues, and for everybody who says, well, just add a 2-inch lift. Lift kits can stress the CV joints on these type of crossovers, and it will lead to early breakage of those parts. So it's not really a cure-all, it's just potentially causing other issues down the road. However, if you can't get over something, then yeah, lift kits, they totally make sense. Okay, there we go, slowly crawl. Now we do have a ridge here. We're gonna continue down the ridge and then onto the logging track like we just did with the Forester. So can you do the same one pedal drive mode in off-road? I don't know, let's check. Hit the button, single pedal drive. Yeah, it works in both. So now let's do it in off-road mode. Again, single pedal driving. Lift that wheel, but we have, oh, back's not locked. Let's lock that rear again because I changed drive mode so it unlocked it. Up and over, no drama. Sure. And then over here on the ridge, because the camera is so big and easy to read, it's super easy to tell where the road is and where the cliff is. Now there also is a crawl control feature where basically I hit that same button and then I hit set, and then it'll set for a minimum drive speed like this. But without a low range, I think the crawl ratio is actually too fast. If you're actually in difficult conditions where you need a crawl control type system, yeah, even 1 mile per hour is faster than you want to go. You really want an incremental, like a half mile per hour. Okay, well now let's go over to the log trail and see how this does. See if maybe we can get through that one part that the Forester couldn't get through. Whoop. Already hitting gravel. So like I did with the Forester, I'm going to go the hard line on the right and see how far we can get. Clearances though, yeah, they are a concern with this thing. Okay, so how are we going to negotiate this? Basically same as before. I'm going to kind of stick to the ridge on the outside to kind of give us a little bit of lift. because I don't want to drag the inside. Now, the mud flaps have been an issue on this. These are an option. They actually are in the total price, the $42,000 and whatever that this costs. That does include these mud flaps, and I find they're actually a little too long. They snag on everything. I have mud flaps on pretty much all my other vehicles. Never had the number of problems, tears, pulls that I've had with these. So just keep that in mind. If you are looking for mud flaps, maybe go with an aftermarket one. These factory ones, they've been problematic. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna do off-road mode, and I'm gonna do one pedal. There we go. And we're just gonna crawl forward. There we go. And I'm not locking my rear yet because we have a tight turn, and I don't want it to drag the inside wheel as part of that process. I'm going to listen for any hits on the underside. I'm going to kiss that side. What tire tracks I'm putting me exactly where the Forester went. Oh, that's a 16-degree tilt right now and a 7-degree. Oh, got to go up here. 7-degree angle. Yeah, there we go. Probably going to drag the back there a little bit. Yeah. Okay, cool. Going up and over, just add throttle. It's really weird at first because I know most people aren't used to their motors like revving so high before you move, but that's good because it puts this in its optimal power zone. A little rubbing, but not too bad. That's passable. Let's tilt over here to the side and see if we can get through this challenge area. You know, a little rubbing's fine, but you don't want to be like dragging body panels or ripping anything off in the process. Okay, now we're going to try the seesaw. Now at this point, we had absolutely high-centered. The Forester, before the wheel even found the ground in the front, so we really couldn't press on without really tearing up the underside. This one, I'm going to see how we can do here. Not rubbing on the side yet. Okay, this is actually working so far. Oh, it's so tilty. We're almost at 19 degrees angle there. At 18, I think. Oh, and then around we go. Let's go full crank. See how we do. I don't want to drag the back on the inside. There's some sticks and stuff in there that could cause some damage. We got through it. Not a single grind. Awesome. At this point, we've seen one pedal drive. So what does it look like when we aren't using one pedal drive? What is it? Just a difficult climb with the rear locked, off-road mode, center locked, and that's it. Let's see. And like with the Forester, I'm going to hug the left here a little bit to try to get my driver's side front wheel up on that mound. Going to have a lot of tilt here. A lot of tilt. Okay. And then with that rear locked, it just climbs up. No big deal. Like, it's kind of incredible. Boom. There we go. No drama at all. If you recall with the Forester, it rubbed when we did a straight drive down the brake over here. So let's see what this one does. We're just driving straight. Oh, just kisses it. Yep, better brake over effectively. Right, well, let's wrap this up. So I think those test results are interesting. This Bronco Sport, I mean, it is really a great little compact crossover. However, that Forester, it did great too. Now, granted, we were able to actually get through all of the challenge sections with this vehicle, but it rubbed in completely different places. On the mogul course, which is actually the first time we tested this on the mogul course, it rubbed then too, so I kind of knew that was coming. It rubs on side to sides, but the breakover effectively is better than the Forester. So at the end of the day, which one of these would I buy? Let's talk about it. I think it's obvious that both these vehicles provide a lot of off-road capability in small, convenient packages. The new Forester Wilderness here is the king of ground clearance in the class, and that really does go a long way. However, the lower approach angle can minimize this advantage on tricky trails. The X-Mode system is good enough to get through most obstacles, but because it relies on brake vectoring, it can cause a lot of fussing and trail damage in the process. Ford's biggest problem is its ground clearance. Even with the larger tires, we're still talking about 8.7 inches. It's good that the skid plate is rather large and all metal on this new 2025. The Subaru skid plate is tiny by comparison. The addition of trail control with single pedal driving is really a game changer. It allows for crawl speeds that previously required a low range, and that is impressive. Add in the dual clutch rear drive unit, and you have a vehicle that can get through pretty much anything, so long as it can clear the obstacle. I think the Subaru Forester here makes a better commuter car. It's quieter, it's more comfortable, it gets slightly better MPGs. I really think that if you have to drive it every single day, this might be the better choice. Also, that extra trunk room in the back, that is gold. If you need it, or if you have dogs, or if you cycle, this is probably the better choice. If I had to pick one, I think my choice would have to be the Bronco Sport Badlands, and that's simply because Ford actually equips it with more off-road ready equipment. It really blurs the line between unibody crossover and proper off-roader. Which one would you pick? Post a comment below. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Hopefully our video today really helped bring out, a feature that you were looking for and you wanted to learn more about. Be sure to like, subscribe, share videos. We make them for you. I hope you enjoy them, and we'll see you again right here on the next one.